Hey, Coach.
Bud.
How helpful was the bye week in terms of self-scouting, and did you guys spend more time on scheme thoughts or more on individual guys and what they can do?
I would say both. You know, once we got off that plane from Clemson that Sunday, was very much just making sure all the data was in order so that we could dig through it on Sunday night into Monday. And I would say before we got back with the players, a lot of it had to do with just the data through the first 4 weeks, where we're at, what we were doing, what are the things that we can build off of. Defense is kind of like offense too, where, hey, these are the pictures we've shown. Let's make sure the pictures change up going into next week, and just, all that things that you do with all the information you get through the first 4 weeks. And then there was a big personnel meeting, because I think this, unlike the first several years here, we have a bunch of really good young players that aren't playing a lot right now. And so then what was the plan? Where were they at this point? What we can do to expedite, their ability to get on the football field, whether it's in the kicking game or on defense. So that was kind of a synopsis of what went on early in that week last week.
Kind of following up on that, through 4 games, you've gone against some pretty good offenses. It's always building, but on defense, like, what do you think you guys are good at right now? Where are things that you take a look at and say we need to improve on these aspects moving forward?
Yeah, I thought, we went in the year making sure that we were going to be better in the run game in all ways, and, I think, minus a run here or a run there, you know what I mean? And I thought we've done a nice job of building walls and being better in that way. I think we've got to do a better job in the pass game, just of staying connected to receivers more. I think that can be definitely improved upon. I liked, there were different games of different focuses, of keeping some of these quarterbacks in the pocket. I thought, especially going all the way back to the LSU game, I thought our front really did a good job of just understanding what we were trying to get accomplished in that game and their execution of it. As you build on year to year, week to week, you put more and more on them, and just measuring, what's too much, what is allowing your guys to go play. And, you're always, coaching is always about trying to put yourself in a position to reflect with the fast forward button on, and that's kind of what we try to do. And, I've got a good sense of what our guys do well. We got to continue to, double down on that, but also stay ahead of it, so that, offenses, every time they line up, have a little bit of this type of mindset to them. So I like the guys that we have, and I like the direction that we're heading, and just the urgency of what it needs to look like this week is just full throttle.
Because we and fans don't necessarily have all the information, but in a game like that against Clemson, where when you blitzed more, you had more success. Then the next question from our side is, well, why don't you blitz more? So what goes into those decisions, and kind of, did Clemson do anything differently that you guys maybe either didn't expect or didn't believe would happen?
To answer your first question, I mean, if blitzing was always what was going to work, we would blitz every single play, and we have blitzers ready for each play, to be honest with you, whether they're in empty formations, unbalanced formations, condensed formations, 4 opens, and you have mindsets going to each game of, when we look at things, it's always like, okay, what's the matchup personnel-wise? Are there any tips or identifications in motions and splits and formation looks that you want to pressure those looks? Are there certain looks that you don't want to pressure? Are there certain times that you don't want to show a look, so then when that comes up again in a critical situation, they're not prepared for what you're going to do? So there's all those things. And there's times that we played a lot of coverage, there's times that we pressured a lot. I hope in both those instances they both work, and it's my job to continue to work through that and put them in the best situation, and that's the job every week, whether it's the first play of the series, whether it's the last play of the game, what is the scenario that we can put our guys in the best position that they can go play their best, and sometimes that has to do with rushing 4, sometimes that has to do with rushing 7. And all that stuff just goes into putting together a plan.
specifically the Kalen blitz and fumble and touchdown. One, the significance of that play, like for you to see that happening, what was that like? And then two, I guess, what did you see maybe going into that play that allowed you, like, okay, we're going to do this aggressive field side blitz?
Well, that whole series, that was I don't even want to say a back and forth game, but obviously it was at a critical moment. But we had done a really good job in the run game, and they hit their first big run, over a 30-yard run on a counter play. Then Jared comes back and answers it with a TFL on just a base look. And so we got him a 2nd and long and plus, you know what I mean? And so there had been a few of their, throw games that took a little bit longer to develop, per se, in some of their route combinations. So it's something that, it's just some pressures that we feel comfortable with, and what I was proud of is the communication that happened between Tatum, Shaheem, and Kalen on that play, and when you execute at a high level with good players, usually good things happen, and that was a big play, and it was a critical play, and momentum is as big as the next play, but that was a really big one for us, and proud to see Fisk pass it to Kalen and make that thing work.
You guys have had stretches in every game where you've kind of been dominant. Even the Boston College game, you went on a 28-0 run. They had 5 drives. They didn't do anything. LSU, you shut down for the most part. Clemson in the second half, you shut down. Is there a common theme to why that doesn't start from the start of the game? You know what I mean? Like, it seems like you struggle to start the game, you find your footing, and then you can take control of the game. Is there a common theme to, is it just teams doing things you haven't seen on film to start a game that you guys get your footing later as the game goes on?
I think, Corey, we always want to start fast, and, there are some, games that we've started faster than others. I mean, you look at how the season started, and that was the opposite of the way, big play, but then you go down and you stand up. What my message to the guys has been through 4 weeks is what I really appreciate is when we've needed you, and we've needed you at times, as a defense, when our backs have been against the wall, we've played our best. That's great, right? Let's play our best when we're not near the wall, and it's taken a lot of work to get that mental toughness and that belief and that fortitude that whether it's a goal line stop or whether it's a critical 3rd down or whether it's in the 4th quarter or whether we got to go create a takeaway and score, whatever that all is, really happy that we have that to us because that's an important trait. Toughness, mindset, ability to respond, all those things. How do we create, and I use the word urgency, but how do we create that constantly? Because we try to do it here in practice. We do it in meetings, it just, in some of those games, sometimes, there are some good players you play against and they make a play, but you never want to take a knee to that. You want to force the action. You want to make sure your guys are always the aggressor. You want to make sure you tackle well coming out of the gate, all those things. And, I go back to some of the Friday practices that we've had, and some have been better than others, and that's a continued push for me to connect what we're doing out there and what we're doing, on that game field. But I do appreciate this when we've had to make an adjustment, whether it's a tackling, whether it's pressuring, whether it's how do we play certain sets, our guys do listen, and they do respond. We just want to create that for 60 minutes.
Renardo's done a lot of good things. Obviously, that 3rd down stop was huge in overtime. But then also, I thought the moment where Shipley got the best of him on a carry, and then the next play, man, he just came up and laid the wood to a big dude. What's it like been watching see him play? Yeah,
Renardo's a great competitor. He really is, and I think he's got confidence in coverage right now. He's always been a good run supporter. That's why we played him at safety a little bit, early in his career. But he's really good in run support. He's been a really good one-on-one cover guy this year, and he's somebody we have a lot of confidence in. But that was a big play. I think that running back at Clemson's one of the better in the country. He's a ferocious runner and he breaks a lot of tackles. But there was one run fit that was absolutely textbook and it was multiple people, and the ball just bounced out to our unblocked player. And we talked about building the wall and what it needs to look like, but that free player's got to go tackle like that, and Renardo did it, and got a lot of confidence in him.
I don't know how much like pre-scouting you do. not going to ask anything that bad, I hope, Coach. You know, how, I guess, far in advance do you scout an opponent? Virginia Tech came into the season with a different, you know, Grant Wells, I guess, was going to be their starting quarterback, and they've gone to the Kyron kid. Does that affect a lot of the sort of preparation you had, or does it throw a wrench in the plans, or do you not look that far ahead, like 4 weeks ago, to like, this is what we're going to see 5 weeks from now against Virginia Tech?
Yeah, there's a lot of summer pre-study that you do, especially with uncommon opponents. But even with guys that you've played for 4 years now, you're still doing some pre-work in the summer. And listen, coaching is maybe like your profession. You do a lot of groundwork underneath the surface, and you could study something for 45 to an hour, and you find something that falsifies the information, you just move forward, you know, and that's just our profession. You know, you're constantly trying to find tips, clues, you're trying to find an edge. And you can't get frustrated when it comes up and you find a reason why it won't be an edge. You just drop it and you go to the next topic. And so, you know, personnel changes, quarterback changes, you know, we've gone through that here. And, you know, I think they pretty much settled it in on why they made the quarterback change. I think it was due to an injury early, but I think they have a lot of confidence in how that game's played especially the last 4 quarters.
What would if Akeem when Akeem is available again, and what would that do for the secondary?
Well, it's a guy that's been almost a 3 to 4 year starter, so I mean, it will just continue to build playmaking and depth and competition, you know, and you know, just whenever he is back, it still doesn't take away the urgency for this younger group of DBs. You know, we got to continue to push that, and you know, it's human nature when you're a young player to come in and all of a sudden you don't play a lot in the first game and you get not frustrated, but just kind of set in the way of, okay, is this the way the rotation? And our message to them is the rotations, you know, as much as we want consistency, and we'll lock into a consistent rotation, but we're trying to find reasons to involve people. And so just the opportunities, whether it's on special teams, whether it's just out there on the practice field, of making sure, regardless of who's available that has played here in the past, we've had guys that have come back as returning starters that have gotten beat out. We've had guys that came in true freshmen that have taken starting roles. So, you know, Akeem's definitely somebody that's played a lot of football for us, somebody that was playing good football, and we look forward to getting him back at some point. But the urgency of improvement for all players are still out there. Thanks, guys.